Welcome back to my workshop. Now in recent years the work that I do has changed quite considerably, and I'm now doing much more work for sort of living history people, museums, that sort of thing. And as a consequence I sort of move away from what was my standard bread and butter, which was making wheels. And if you've watched my channel recently you've noticed I'm making a lot of buckets. And so making buckets, tubs, churns, that sort of thing has become very much my everyday work. And therefore I make the sort of bits and pieces that you need in order to make those buckets work. So for example, I now make a sort of a paddle. So if you buy a wash tub from me, you can now buy a paddle so you can paddle the clothes round in the wash tub. May not be to everybody's taste, but in medieval England that's what you needed. So this is the sort of wooden yoke thing you'd wear around your shoulders with a couple of ropes coming down, and you'd hang a bucket on either end, and it's a way of moving, large amounts of liquid easily. And so the pattern for what you're about to see today comes from an original 17th century yoke. As you can see, I took a pattern, I've transferred it to this piece of ash. This is a fairly solid piece of 60mm thick wide ash. It's a lovely bit of timber, but it's quite heavy. So we're going to lose a lot of weight as I cut a lot of these bits and pieces out. I'm going to cut out on a bandsaw. I'm not going to bother showing you that. Everybody's seen cutting bits of wood out on a bandsaw. It's not very exciting, so I'll just get on and do that, and then we can get on to the proper work. So now we have our basic blank. As you can see, it's roughly in the shape, but now we need to start shaping it properly. And the first thing we need to do is to turn the ends. During the course of the process this is going to end up on the lathe twice, but the first one is just a sort of a rough turn just to get the basic shape. I'm not going to go too fast because this is a bit of an interesting thing to turn. So I shall carry on turning this until it's round, and then I shall start to come up here, so it gets me about here, just to take the edges off this bit, and then I'll do exactly the same on the other end. When I first started making them, I'd do them with a draw knife, and it would take days, which is not a very efficient use of my time. So what I've hit upon, and I've done the last couple this way, is I've used one of these grinding discs on an angle grinder, and I must say it works a treat. As you can see, it takes off quite a lot, but you have to go very slowly. Don't try and do this quickly, otherwise you'll end up taking far more off than you intended. And the trick is to keep your eye on both sides of it at the same time, because you want, whatever you do on one side, you want to get it about the same on the other side, otherwise it starts to look really stupid. I'm going to take a little tiny bit more of this bit, and then I'll turn it round and I'll start doing that side. But in a while we'll get this done. So for this next bit we've got to take a really deep cut. If you get this bit wrong, then you've just wasted a big piece of wood. But let's see how we get on. So now we're back on the lathe to do a bit more turning. Obviously this is going to be the end of it. I now got a little bead there, and I'm going to thin this down and then slowly bring it up to there. And then our rope can fit on the end here, and the bead will stop it falling off the end. So there you can see we've got our bead on the end, thin down there, and it's starting to come up like that. And now I've got to do exactly the same on the other end, and I'll spend a happy half an hour, I suspect, sanding it all down, getting it all so it's respectable. But that's the basic shaping of it all done once I do the other end. So the last part of the process is we need a bit of rope and we need a hook on the end. Now you could just tie it around the end, I suppose. Seems a bit of a shame. Spoil the ship for a heap of the tar, as the saying goes. So I'm going to splice the rope at both ends. I've also got a hook which I've made. So last time I had the falls going, I made a load of these, and I'm delighted to say it fits, so that's even better. If you've looked at any of my bucket videos, you see I splice quite a lot of rope. I always think it makes quite a nice finish. So you need one of these, which is a thing called a Swedish fid. What you do when you splice is obviously I'm going to go through this loop, then I'm going to go through the second bit, is going to go through that loop, and then the third one is going to go through the one underneath. And then if I get it really tight, it's not going to go anywhere. The last thing you want, if you've just spent ages milking a cow or whatever it is you're going to do with a milk maid's yoke, is for the rope to come off the end of the yoke and then lose your bucket of milk. I don't want to think about the rude words I'd get called at that point. I have started making my own rope, which has proved to be quite fun. I'm sure that'll be in a later video. This isn't my rope, this is commercial rope. That's taken me to a whole new world. Who knew so many things would be interesting about rope? But I must admit, I'm thoroughly enjoying making rope. So that's our splice for there. I'll do the whipping to go around it, I'll get rid of the blue tape, and then that'll be ready, and that completes the whole of the yoke. So there you have it. It's not often I make something I can wear. I can't say it's the most comfortable thing in the world I've ever had, but it's quite a good way of moving a couple of buckets, and as luck would have it, I had a couple of buckets to hand. But if you enjoyed this one, go and have a look at some of the other ones. You never know, you might enjoy that as well. So until the next time, bye bye.